This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A wonderful winter's afternoon, warm and sunny, a perfect day to join us. Hi, I'm Mike, and we are here at Pride Lands, and we'd love to take you on your safari live in the African bush. So here we are sitting with a gorgeous young lioness who's very relaxed at the moment in the shade on this nice sodic area, nice and cool with the breeze passing through, elephants nearby. She looks full and happy and round. What a gorgeous way to start our afternoon safari. I'm Mike, and behind the camera we've got Seb, and you're joining us here at Pridelands Conservancy. We are very, very excited to be here this afternoon because we've got this lioness who's here with us. And we've been watching her over the last few days. We actually hadn't seen her yesterday, and I'm glad that we've managed to find her again now, and she looks like she's eaten, which is fantastic, because she is our golden girl at the moment. We've been watching her with a lot of interest because she is young, too young really to be on her own. It's very strange that she's on her own. We wonder why she's on her own, but it doesn't seem to have stopped her from really doing a great job at looking after herself. As you can see there, she's breathing quite quickly. Her belly is nice and full. It looks like she hunted successfully last night or maybe yesterday. Maybe ate something small like a duiker or an impala. It seems like she's left it. She's not feeding on it now. So she's doing fantastic. You can see she's wearing the battle scars of a tough life. You know, lions live a tough life, and her most of all, because she's on her own at the moment. But she seems to be very, very strong, well muscled. But it's not just lions that have a tough life. Leopards have it too. So we'll send you over to Ngala.
A warm welcome to all our viewers. So we are currently watching a young male leopard sleeping up in the tree. Now, just to give you a bit of an idea, you'll see it's quite a tree with quite a big canopy, and he made a kill early on this morning and decided after feeding for quite a bit he's going to go and lie down up in those branches where there's a little breeze blowing and can cool himself down. Now you'll see just here at the base of the tree there's actually an impala carcass right there on the ground. Now often with leopards they do tend to move the carcass up into the tree so the hyenas don't get it. But now the question is the carcass maybe too heavy for him? Because he is a strong male leopard, he'll be able to pull that up. Or has he just been feeding and now he's decided to just lie down for the next little while and then later on come down and possibly pull it up into the tree? Now I'm NIKKI here at Beyond Ngala, going to be your ranger for today, and with me on the camera is Owen. So as we carry on, I would encourage all our viewers, please to send in some questions. If you have any questions, to hashtag Wild Earth on Instagram, but also at FC on YouTube. And we'd love to hear from everyone what your thoughts are, and also welcome you on this live drive with us. So please send in those questions, and we'd love to hear from you. But have a notice, so from that lioness that you saw earlier with Mike, just have a look at this leopard, how much different it is in comparison to that lioness. You'll notice there's quite a few spots, and what we actually can see here is the whiskers, and close to in the face as well of this leopard. You notice those little long white whiskers that like start from the tip of the upper lip, and it moves all the way out, flares out to the right. And unlike the lioness from earlier, leopards tend to have longer whiskers in comparison to that of lions. But also, look at their spot pattern. It's this beautiful, looks like a bunch of spots that are fused together to form these beautiful rosettes. And he blends in so well. You know, we actually almost drove past him earlier on before we were able to spot him. So from one animal to another, talking about spot patterns, let's send you across to Steve, because apparently he has another animal also with what looks like spots, but a lot bigger.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody to Djuma, the private game reserve in the Sabi Sands, where we've got a beautiful tall male giraffe. And well, hello everybody, my name is Steve FAULCONBRIDGE, joined by Thea Molabatse on camera, and we are very excited to have you with us. Jump on board, get your binoculars ready and your checklists, and let's see if we can find you any wonderful animals today. This big male giraffe is walking around a common saffron that he's enjoying. So it's a very nice way to observe animal behavior and animal feeding by doing something known as passive research. You can sit and observe what animals eat. You can see what they eat, and if you're not sure, see they're eating that tree, go afterwards, get a sample, and then you know, okay, they eat this plant. Matt, you want to know if giraffe get neck pain from having such a long neck? Well, they're very quiet fellows. I've never heard one complaining, but if you see what a giraffe does with that neck, you would think that they get some serious neck pain. When they fight, the males stand next to each other and they swing those long necks, smashing each other with their head like a massive big hammer. That looks painful. But believe it or not, Matt, there's the same amount of cervical vertebrae in the neck of a giraffe as there is in your neck. Only seven. They've got no adaptation or no extra bones in there. It's the same. It's just extended and ossified and grown much, much bigger and much taller. Now, Lauren Arthur's around the corner, and she's got some animals that you don't often find browsing.
I do. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome aboard your very own live safari for today. We're sitting with a very lazy herd of buffalo. I think they're avoiding the sun. It's actually very hot today on a winter's afternoon. It feels almost like summer. My name is Lauren. I do have Craig on camera today. And we had an elephant here as well. Elephant and buffalo together. Two of what is termed the big five. But the elephant, I'm afraid, has left us. So the buffalo are feeling rather lazy. This one is having a great scratch here, Craig. This buffalo has been scratching itself for a good 5 minutes now. And if you think about it, they haven't got hands. How else do they scratch themselves? Well, they use the vegetation. But I have to say it's rather entertaining. And we're actually on our way to a buffalo kill. So this buffalo that we're about to go to will not be alive, I'm afraid, but it does have lions surrounding it. Our Nkuhuma Pride, it's been there for quite a few days, so that's where we're headed, but we just came across this really large breeding herd of buffalo. Grazing and sunbathing. Males, females, and I think I saw some youngsters. It benefits the buffalo to be together in great big numbers. More eyes, more nostrils, more ears to warn when predators are around. And they actually have very keen senses. Sophie, yes, you're saying, shh, don't tell the buffalo there's a kill. I know, you're completely right. I feel slightly guilty now. All is good, buffalo, all is good. But we're actually really, really close to where that sighting is. We're not too far off. I wonder if they'll be able to smell. They do have a very keen sense of smell. They can actually smell if lions are in the vicinity. They can hear them and they can see them. But they've got to keep their youngsters herded in the middle. So we are going to head to that other buffalo with the lions. We will leave this herd to get on with their sunbathing and head off to see the lions. So we're going to take a short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
have a look at this leopard's face. We try to just see if we can get another little gap, but it's difficult because there's a few leaves that are in the way, but you can see right in the middle of the leaves is his nose. You'll just notice as soon as the leaves move, there's a slight bit of pink, and that's the very tip of his nose. And both his eyes are actually closed at the moment. That's how relaxed this male is. And I can just imagine for him why he needed to come up here. Is he had a good meal. It was a warm day here in the Lowveld. We're right next to the beautiful Timbavati River. And because of that, he maneuvered his way all up onto that branch. Now he's lying down in the shade, and there's a little breeze blowing over him, cooling him down. I can imagine how comfortable that must be, because the way that leopard's laying, lying on that tree, really, really looks comfortable. And what I'm hoping for is if we do spend some time here, imagine if he can get down and he starts moving down towards that impala carcass, and we'll be able to see that. But as we move out, just have a look at where he's situated in this tree and how well he blends in. But definitely hard to see if you don't know where to be looking out for it. If you notice right in the middle, and you look at that little patch of rosettes, so that when I say rosettes, he's just repositioning himself, just putting his head on the other side. But if you notice the rosettes right in the middle of the screen, you'll notice that he's like it's expanding and retracting, expanding, retracting. So that's him breathing. Now, often a leopard, if it had a big meal, you'll see it often has like these deep, heavy breaths. Because you can imagine all that food, and he's lying down on the branch. It pushes against the diaphragm, which makes him short of breath. He's just repositioning again. I think we might be able to see his face a little bit better. That's what I'm hoping for. Right in between those two leaves. But you'll even notice around his eyes, what I often love to do is just look at the facial features, because that's one of the ways that we can identify a leopard, is looking at the nose, looking at the spot pattern. And especially when he turns his, or even without a set, so where the leaves are, if you look off to the right, you'll notice there's these little dots near his whiskers. Now, often with leopard, when you try and identify them, look at tears of the ears, you look at any particular spot pattern around the face, but also those little spots there can give you a pattern so that you can identify them. Another way, of course, is that often with leopards, they do hold little territories. Now, he's so young that he won't have necessarily a whole territory right now, because he would, once he only reaches the age of 2.5, maybe 3 years, establish his own territory. And then later on, it might even be only at 5, 6 years. But for now, he's still moving in this area, and often he'll even steal kills from other leopards as well, especially females with youngsters, because he'll chase them off their kill and then drag it up in a tree and eat it from there. But Kerry, how well hidden is this leopard up in this tree? I just wanted to point out something to our viewers that are watching at the moment. Just want to quickly point out on this track right over here. So I'm going to hold it like this just so that it's in focus. Now, if you look at this track here, you'll notice there's 3 lobes right there, and then these clear rounded pads over here. Now, leopard track in general is up to 9 centimeters. So if we had to compare that in size of the books, it's probably going to be that size within the book. But of course, a lion, a lot bigger. So in the meantime, while we're having a look at this animal that made that type of track, let's send you across to a lion.
So we're still sitting with this lioness, and I know that Nikki was talking about leopards having rosettes, and I thought it was actually quite interesting that this lioness still has the remnants of some spots on her back legs. I don't know if you can see that. She's still got a few spots there, and her nose is still a bit pink. So this lioness is quite young. We don't think she's much more than 2 years old, if that. So she's very young, and young lions have spots on their body in order to help them to camouflage better when they are left alone at a den site and the adult lions go off and hunt. So she's still quite young. Those spots largely disappear as the lions get older and they become more uniform in color. You can see she's grooming herself just a little bit. And there are quite a few small flies buzzing around us, so I can imagine that there must be quite a few buzzing around her as well, especially if she's got little bits of blood or something still in her fur where she couldn't clean herself very well. Remember, normally there's a whole pride of lions which will all groom each other and help keep each other clean. So if she's still got any sort of blood in her whiskers or around her chin where she couldn't clean it, those flies will be pestering her relentlessly. Sophie is wondering how often lions wander from their prides. Well, Sophie, it's not too often, to be honest, that females wander away from their prides. Male lions, when they're younger, once they reach around 2 years old or a little bit older than 2, the adult males will not tolerate their presence anymore because they might become competition for the dominance of an area. So the male lions will usually push away the male offspring, and then they'll be left to wander on their own, trying to find their way around. But this lioness, I think, might have been pushed out of her pride by a large male who was not her father, because she's not yet ready to mate, I don't think. And so she was essentially no good to him. It's a mouth to feed, and he can't mate with her, so he might have pushed her out. That's just a theory, though. We don't really know what happened and why she's on her own. So, Sophie, this is quite unusual. You won't often see lionesses on their own. And it's interesting to watch her. She seems to be doing very well, though. It's amazing. Her belly is very full. You can see she's got some bite marks. I don't know if those are bite marks or what on the back of her neck. I don't know if you can see that. So it might be from a fight with the lions or other lions when she was with a pride. And maybe that's why she's alone at the moment. Maybe she's been in the battles a bit. But we're rooting for her.
We have arrived at the other buffalo, the one that's not got a heartbeat. And there's not much remaining. We have lions everywhere. Male lion, I can only see one at the moment. Lots of female lionesses and cubs. This is our Nkuhuma pride. Nkuhuma named after the brown ivory tree. And the Avoca males are actually named after a place called Avoca. So I think we have Mohawk in front of us, or the one we nickname Mohawk at least. So it's really hard to do a count right now because there just are so many lions scattered. As I mentioned earlier, it's very hot, so they're all just trying to rest, digest, and seek some shade. You know how uncomfortable it feels when you're full, when you've had a big meal and you have to undo that top button of your trousers. We've all been there. Well, that's how they feel right now. And add the intense heat from the sun on top of that, it makes for a very uncomfortable situation. So I imagine once the sun goes down and it gets a lot cooler, the lions will get active. They may actually leave. They've been on this carcass for quite some time now, and they may decide it's time to move on, and that's when all the scavengers will swoop in. I'm really hoping for some hyena action. Jane, you are 100% correct. Look at this boy. This is one of the oldest cubs. There's two boys, and they belong to Ridge Nose. They were the first cubs of the new generation, and look at that belly. That is a big belly. But predators live the life of feast or famine. So when there is food, they really do feast on it. So I'm not going to go anywhere, and hopefully these lions will wake up from their deep rest.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Jared, and behind the camera today we've got Marcel. And welcome to a beautiful, sunny, blue-skied afternoon. And we've got with us 2 white rhinos. Now, I've been trying to figure out the sort of makeup with these rhinos and what the situation is. Now, looking at their size when they lift their head up and just their general size at this distance can always be a little bit tricky, particularly when both rhinos are around the same size to try to estimate their age. But I think that these are 2 younger rhinos. So 2 rhinos that either aren't sexually mature if they're females, or just aren't old enough to be territorial bulls. I haven't been able to quite tell whether they're males or females yet. It is quite difficult from this distance. But what I suspect has happened is that both of these rhinos, maybe over the last 2 or 3 years, so I reckon they're about 6 years old or so, have been kicked out from their mother. And what they will often go and do is find other rhinos to join up with. Now, they will stick together for a short period of time. That being said, short, sometimes a couple of years, just for comfort. And if they are females, you'll find that they'll probably split up a little bit sooner than if they were males. And the reason why is that females will become sexually mature a little bit sooner and want to mate than when a male would become a dominant bull in the area. So once they get to the time where they're sexually mature and they want to mate, they will split off and go find a male to mate with. Whereas if they were 2 bulls, they would stick together up to the time that they would want to form a territory. Now, white rhinos are very territorial, and males will fight, sometimes even to the death, for their territory. But I do think that these males will be together for a couple of years.
This is a fantastic day out here. I know I keep saying it, but it really, really is. At Tswalu Kalahari Reserve, we couldn't hope to be in a better place. And thank you everyone for joining us. It is always such a pleasure having you along with myself. And yeah, let's explore this incredible environment that we're in. It is a semi-arid savanna. It can be incredibly harsh, but also it can be incredibly beautiful. And as we're going out today and on all our other game drives, you know, just really let's try get a handle on these systems. Let's try understand how these places work. It is incredibly intricate, and there are just so many moving parts, so many cogs, so many things changing, altering all the time, that to actually try pin it down and understand it is very, very difficult. But we're actually working towards that, and we've got a number of really interesting research projects going on that can actually help us get a handle on this. But it's all very, very exciting, and there's nothing better than actually being able to share this kind of thing with everyone out there. So this afternoon, what I've got planned, whether we get it right or not, is a completely different story. I'm actually going to be trying to find some aardvark again this afternoon. The temperature has actually picked up a lot since this morning. So I'm going to guess and say probably within the next hour, we should be in a temperature range that's going to be a little bit better for these animals to be out foraging and feeding, but you never know. Nature has strange ways of working, and it may actually be that we find one a lot sooner than I expect.
We're still in the same spot here in Djuma Game Reserve, but a different angle. We're now looking at the scavengers. So just a reminder, if you want to send through any questions, this is a live safari, so please do, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. Now, this is a hooded vulture. We have different species of vultures here, and this particular tree that we're looking at is filled with hooded vultures. But behind us, quite far off in the distance, we do have whitebacks. Whiteback vultures are normally the most numerous in an area, and the collective noun for this, believe it or not, is a committee. Lots of vultures together in a tree is a committee. They have different collective names. Here we go, that's the whitebacks, way off in the distance. Not a great visual, but they have great vision, so they don't need to be close. They will know immediately when the lions move off and the carcass is up for the taking. They don't need to be positioned right above the carcass. Now, a kettle, if you see lots of vultures in flight, that's a kettle. Yes, I don't know who decided that was the... Oh, nice one, Craig. There you go. Vultures in flight with the moon. That's a kettle of vultures. And then when you see vultures actually feeding at a carcass in a frenzy, that's a wake. Linda, I agree. Vultures are incredible birds. They have a bad reputation because they scavenge, but that's necessary. They clean up the entire habitat. They clean up the ecosystem. Nothing goes to waste. That's the purpose of scavengers. Although to humans it does sound slightly nasty, they're very, very necessary. They're very unique birds with incredible visual capacities, and they're very, very intelligent. They have a hierarchy as well. They don't, all the species do not sort of connect with one another. The lappet-faced vultures are the biggest of all, and the hooded are the smallest that we find here. So we're going to sit tight and see what other scavengers we can find.
So there's not as much action going on here because our lioness is sleeping, but it's good to just keep an eye on what she's up to. You can see her belly is moving very quickly. So she's digesting right now the food that she must have eaten last night, and that creates a lot of heat, and that's why she's lying in the shade. She's trying to cool down by breathing. Remember, lions can't sweat like we can to cool down. They can only pant to get rid of that heat. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that in the background. We've got elephants trumpeting far away. We might go and check what they're up to in a moment once we've left this lioness, because she looks like she's probably going to rest here most of the afternoon until at least it gets a little bit cooler. Emily is asking whether this lioness could start a pride from scratch, as in, give birth and raise them, and it's definitely possible, Emily. I have seen lions before with only one lioness. The rest of the pride, unfortunately, were killed in conflicts, and it was one lioness and her two young male offspring who weren't yet able to hunt, so she had to do everything, and it's definitely possible. She could end up finding a male once she's in state to breed, when she's old enough, and the male might mate with her, and if she does raise them and never joins a pride, it would be very difficult, but it is possible, absolutely, and that could be the start of a new pride, and then she would have to fight for a territory, which is difficult being one lioness. She would basically have to find a place which has got no other lions in order to be able to establish a territory by herself, because she won't be able to fight very well. But in the meantime, we'll watch her and then head off to find some ellies.
Thanks, Mike. Well, we've stayed with our giraffe. He's been feeding and feeding and feeding non-stop. He went from the common saffron to a jacket plum and a bit of tambuti. Now he's going back for the jacket plum, I think. Very long neck, a long face allows these animals to get their mouths right in there. And prehensile lips and tongue, everybody. There's a little bit of a tambuti there as well. That is feeding on that tambuti. Everybody's poisonous. It's poisonous. There's a milky latex that will burn your skin, and ingested we could die. Look at that tongue. Isn't that crazy? Come over here. A prehensile tongue and lips able to very selectively get leaves from the tallest of trees and also quite low down. So no competition for the giraffe. But imagine trying to take your hands into a tree and pruning or plucking the leaves. That's exactly what the giraffe is doing with their lips and their tongue. Far better than you'd be able to do with your teeth, with your with your fingers. Layla, you want to know how much they weigh? A male giraffe can get up to 1,500 kilograms. A fellow like this is in his prime. He's about as big as they get. He's very, very good condition. You can tell he's a male by how thick those ossicones are on top of the head. And he's been very accommodating today. Oh, he's now going to do the scratch, is he? No. Well, that's what they do, everybody. Exit stage right. He's very well practiced at this sort of thing, you see. He's going to walk into the bushes. And it amazes me how such a large animal is able to move. And, well, we're going to see if we can get you another position. In the meantime, I'll send you over to some rhinos.
So although these rhinos are busy heading into the directions of some trees, and particularly Tamboti trees, unlike the giraffe that Steve was with shortly, white rhinos do not eat Tamboti trees. In fact, they do not eat trees at all. Their diet consists almost solely on grass. Now, if these were black rhino, who do eat leaves and branches, they would most certainly be feeding on the Tambotis. And there's only a few species of animals that feed on Tambotis, and giraffe being one of them, and black rhinos being another one of them. There's actually a bit of a theory that black rhino feed on Tamboti trees to kill worms. So Arthur, you asked, why do they call them white rhinos? So there's actually a very interesting debate about this. So you'll hear a lot of people say that they call them white rhinos because they've got a very wide lip, and the Dutch word for wide sounds very similar to white, and that's why they got their name. There's been some recent research done, or at least this is one of the papers that I read, that word for wide, that sound very similar to white in Dutch, wasn't actually the word that they used back when the Dutch settlers came to Africa. So the second theory would be is that the area where they found white rhinos when they originally came to South Africa was in an area where the soil was much lighter, and as I'm sure, Arthur, you know that white rhinos love to mud wallow, and they like to lie in the sand and dust themselves up in sand. And so the white rhino would have appeared to be much lighter and whiter than the other species of rhino known as the black rhino, who would have been in an area where the soil was slightly darker than that. So those are the two sort of theories, the one being white from the wide lip and the other one being the area that they came from and the soil.
How exciting is this? From leopards to African wild dogs. So you can just see this one that's moving off from left to right. Probably just going to find a spot to lie down in the sun. It is slowly starting to cool down. Early today it was warm, so some of them were like lying down in the shade. But now I'm moving a bit more into the sun. But very special animal to see. Just notice those big round ears, and I'm sure because of the smell, there's quite a lot of flies around, and that's why that wild dog's just moving its ears to try and get rid of those flies. Maybe it was irritated because of the flies and decided to move all the way to where it is now and just flop down. Just in the shade, there's a few other wild dogs. I think altogether I'm just counting 3 here, and it might be a few members that have split away from a pack and have decided to hunt together, or possibly they could be part of a bigger pack. Not too sure. It'll be interesting to see. That one that moved earlier looked like might have been a young female. But this one also getting up. I do love their colors, especially around the legs, that white and black, and a little bit of brown, especially around the head between the ears.
Lauren.
Excuse me, everyone. I'm just going to chat on the radio. Standing by.
Have you moved on from your buffs?
Yes, I'm on lock with the lions.
Are they mobile at all, or are they very flat?
Very, very flat. You'll spot them straight away if you drive the fire brake.
Maybe they come and drink. I saw some giraffes on enjoy this for a while.
We've been having such a beautiful afternoon, especially in this dry Timbavati river that we were mentioning a bit earlier. Now, I would really encourage all our viewers to send in those questions. Remember it's hashtag Wild Earth on Instagram and at FC for our YouTube and Twitter. So we'd love to hear some questions from the viewers, but I just wanted to show you. So we're having a look at these wild dogs right here. Not even a kilometer down from here is where we found that leopard with that kill up in the tree. And just behind me, as we speak, there are some elephants coming down into the river to drink. So I just want to position like this. I'm not going to move too much, but I just want to show you, just off to my right, just behind, maybe 100 meters from where I am now, you'll notice, might be hard to see because we are looking into the sun, but you'll see the back of this elephant amongst the reeds. Now, because it is a dry riverbed, this elephant's probably just digging for some water. So it's using that trunk to scoop up that sand to open up the bit of water to go and drink from there. But that elephant is pretty far off, and what we'll do is maybe later on, if we do decide to move a bit closer, we can definitely go past and have another look. I just want to head back to these wild dogs, because often if they start moving, they can move for quite a bit in a day. Now, George, with the wild dogs in particular, they do sometimes, if the pack is big. I remember a few years ago there used to be a pack of over 17 wild dogs on this particular property, and they would hunt sometimes 2, maybe 3 times a day. But with 3 wild dogs like this, if they made a good kill, they'll probably only have to eat either in a day or 2's time from now. So, but they are opportunistic. I mean, if they do move from one area to another and there's an opportunity to hunt, they'll definitely make use of that opportunity. But sometimes with them, because wild dogs have quite a potent smell, you can really smell them from a distance. Sometimes if a big pack crosses the road and you're driving, you can actually smell for 20 minutes afterwards where that pack would have crossed. And because of that, the hyenas tend to follow them, because they know as soon as they make a kill, they'll go in there to try and grab whatever's left, or even try and chase. If there's only 3 and there's a big clan of hyena, might even chase the wild dogs off. Grab the meal and then run off from there.
The cubs were feasting on whatever remains of this buffalo. It's not very pleasant, everyone. The smell is horrendous here. But Craig has just told me that this is drastically different from last night. The entire pride is here. Females, 1 male, cubs, and they really made a huge dent into this buffalo carcass. I imagine tonight they will leave. They will get up and just abandon it, and that's really when the scavengers will come in and play their part. Although lionesses and a pride have a really, really tight bond, we've just got one eating a leg over here. They will fight over food, as will the cubs, as will the males, and it can become really aggressive, a feeding frenzy, each man for themselves at a carcass. And then once the feeding is over, all bonds are sort of put back in place. Mai, you're asking about the predators of vultures, which is very interesting because the lions, generally speaking, no. Most predators are opportunistic, which means if the opportunity presents, then yes, they really will go for it. But otherwise, they will not actually be hunted by lions, that's for sure. But because they are on the ground quite a lot, you will find that they may get picked up by other predators, especially aerial predators. Bigger birds of prey could easily attack a vulture. Okay, I'm going to stay here and bear the smell, but for now we're going to send you all the way to Tswalu Kalahari with Dylan.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a beautiful day out here at Tswalu Kalahari. My name is Dylan, and it is nothing but an absolute pleasure having you with us in this environment to see what we can find. My thinking is I'm going to try, it'll be a long shot, but I'm going to try and find an aardvark for you this afternoon. We're moving into an area that's really, really good for aardvark, but I'm waiting for the temperature to drop a little bit more. The wind is in our favor. It's coming from that direction towards us, and we're actually going straight into the wind, which is very, very good because their sense of smell and hearing is superb. So if we can be moving into the wind through these big open grassland areas, which you'll see later, it could actually be very, very good for us. But while we're on the way out there, waiting for the temperature to drop, I just wanted to chat very, very briefly about dead trees. And just how critically they're important, how important they are for these systems. I think too many people view dead trees as just, okay, it's another source of wood that we can have a barbecue on or a braai on, and that's the sum total, especially this particular species. In South Africa, many of you may know it as a kameeldoring. In English, we know it as a camelthorn tree. And a tree like this, one this size, with that base like that, you're probably looking at about 250, 300 years old. And once it dies, it can probably stand for another 50, 60 years. So these trees get very, very old. But even when they've died, they are critically important for these systems in a very simple way, just as a perch. And often perches like this are used by your large raptors, so eagles, buzzards, kestrels, falcons, hawks, those kind of things. And those species are what we call apex predators. So just from that one facet, a dead tree standing up like this is critically important. When this tree eventually collapses, and there's a big branch behind me that has already, it obviously provides a lot of shelter for things on the ground. The very obvious one that comes to mind straight out, so things like termites. In fact, this branch over here, you can't see it from there, but it's being eaten out from the center already by termites. Yeah. Kay says this is one tall tree, and it is. And it's not the tallest one that we've got in Tswalu. I mean, this area is not renowned for tall trees, but the tallest tree that I've seen on Tswalu is probably about 15, 16 meters high, and that's actually a shepherd's tree.
So I know at Tswalu they were talking about how important trees are, and here in the low veld, in the eastern part of South Africa, they're just as important. And these elephants that we have here at Pridelands are actually busy breaking branches off these trees in order to get to the green leaves that are still at the very tips and the tops. But it's winter time, there's not much greenery around, so whatever there is, the elephants are desperate to get at. And this elephant bull did break a whole branch down, And this actually creates a little microhabitat. See those thorny tangle of branches there? If that gets left on the ground, the grass will grow amongst it without being damaged by other antelope and herbivores, and it will make a little habitat for small animals. Oh, look at that, it was very clever. Do you see that? The elephant used its foot to hold the branch down as it used its then very strong and dexterous trunk to pluck that branch off there. Really, really cool. The sound of these elephants crunching is really awesome as well. Just listen for a moment. It's very dry and crunchy. But you can see that elephant is just enjoying a branch. I mean, it's difficult to see because it's right behind this other branch of the knob thorn. But there you can just see he's trying to pull the end of the branch out with its trunk. It's got no bark on it now. He's taken the sweet stuff that he wanted off. And it's just left with the wood. The wood is dead. It's nothing good there. It's food for termites. So once he's eaten that, he'll throw it down on the ground. See, even just trying to pull off little tiny pieces with the tip of his trunk. It's very clever how they use their trunk. It's I think it's called a rostrum. That end thing. Well, maybe I'm making up things, but anyway, that look how dexterous it is. Look how it literally curves around a small branch. Andrew, it is very clever. I agree with you completely. It's super cool and clever the way they're able to smell, because they can't see very well, but they use their trunk very dexterously by smelling and feeling. It's very sensitive. Can feel everything around them. It's a pleasure to watch as they maneuver things around. I mean, it's especially cool when you watch them hunting for marula fruits in the long summer grass.
Can you believe there's actually room in these lions' tummies? They're back to eating. It's slightly gory. Well, one is sleeping, and the others are feasting here in Djuma Game Reserve. Now, I apologize about earlier. Our batteries died. Sometimes that happens out here in the wilderness. We are, of course, well, coming to you live out here in the wild, and unfortunately we had a battery issue. So you were asking what are the predators of vultures, and that's a great question because really not much. A lion would, if it could, eat a vulture, but generally speaking they're said to, well, smell very bad. They're big birds, they wouldn't be so easy to take down. And of course, they are birds. So for a land mammal to take down an aerial animal, it's not going to be so easy. But they would if they could. But generally speaking, of course, immature vultures, young ones or fledglings, they will absolutely have predators from other birds of prey, hawks, eagles, owls, and eggs, of course, will absolutely be eaten by other animals. Some mammals would eat vulture eggs if they could get access to them, but they generally tend to nest in trees above the ground for that exact reason. Because, can you hear that? The vocalizations of the cubs are getting so loud and so deep. They have a special voice box. It's non-ossified, which means there's no bones, purely made from cartilage, which is flexible and not as dense as bone. So it means that it can vibrate and project those sounds very, very far. Okay, I'm going to watch my hungry lions feast on whatever remains. I'm going to send you across to the wild dogs.
So earlier on, Laura mentioned about how lions can communicate with one another, and what's quite interesting, especially with wild dogs, is whenever they do hunt, whenever they do get up and they start moving, how advanced or how interesting it is and integrated it is to notice their behavior, especially when they do communicate with one another. And you'll often see if they do get up and they start stretching, as they'll almost group together, almost looks like they might play with one another, and from there on they'll start moving. But what's quite interesting is the way they position themselves down in the river. Now, this one is lying down in such a way, it's hard to make out the tail end from the head end because of the camouflage in the grass, but here you'll notice the big floppy ears, and then it just picked up his head. But the way they are lying down is basically facing downwind. So if something had to move behind them, they'll be able to smell it. But if something came down that river, or down on their, or downwind from them towards them, they'll be able to see it and immediately run. Because with wild dogs, unfortunately, one of their biggest threats would be lions. If there's a big pride of lions in an area, wild dogs have to be very, very careful because of that. And so, especially with us as well, remember we also saw those lions, we saw lions earlier on today. For some of our viewers that didn't watch, that was on a buffalo carcass, so those lions aren't too far away from where these wild dogs are. So they have to be super careful. Quickly just scan around, make sure there's no potential threat, and then once they've scanned the area, they might just lower their head, but there'll always be one individual with his head up, or maybe even scanning around before it decides to lay its head down again. But very well camouflaged. I mean, if those ears when moving, it'd be really hard to see it. Linda, I can imagine why it's your favorite animals. And if I can ask, for some of our viewers, what would you say is your absolute favorite thing about a wild dog? For me, it's definitely how elegant they are, how well they can work as a pack, and also how quick they are. I mean, those are just all combined into this perfectly adapted hunting machine. But I would love to hear from all our viewers, actual fact, if you can just let us know what is one of the things that really stands out for you, especially with wild dogs. In the meantime, I just want to appreciate these wild dogs a little bit more and hopefully see them getting up. But while we do that, let's head across to Mike and have a look at what those elephants are doing.
They are big-eared creatures
almost a little bit bigger ears than the wild dogs. Nikki, my favorite thing about wild dogs is how much energy they have when they start getting up and running around like crazy. I love it. I think it's cool. Almost as much energy as this little baby was having a moment ago. Very rambunctious. Oh, hello. Yes, I'm talking about you. This baby elephant came right up to us to investigate and was showing us who was boss. In fact, we ended up moving back because we felt so intimidated by this little baby elephant. We decided to give it some space so it could feel so dominant. Good little, I think it's a little girl actually. I think. It's so nice. It's the most beautiful thing. I think this might be the same herd that we spent all of our morning with this morning when we were live, and it's such a pleasure to spend time with them again this afternoon. It's absolutely gorgeous. Especially with this nice, soft afternoon warmth slowly seeping into us. The elephants are enjoying it. Oh, what a day to be out on safari. So, shortly we will be having to leave, but we would love you to join us same time, same place tomorrow, or continue watching us online. See you then.
It's so interesting watching these wild dogs because every time the one picks up its head, the others quickly look at that one and then it lowers its head and then the others would lower their head again, just waiting for, I reckon what they're trying to do is they're probably just waiting for one just to get up and so then they can start moving from there. And especially if they have been lying down in an area for quite a bit of the day, you can always see they start getting really restless if they lie down for too long and then start moving from there. But this morning they may, like based on what we've seen or heard, and it was straight after drive, some of the trackers found these wild dogs and it looked like they were on a kill. So it might be that if they do eventually move a little bit later, it might just be moving out of this area because there's also lions around, or they might even decide this is where they're going to spend the night. So it'll be interesting to see. And I love us to just spend quite a bit of the afternoon and see what's going to happen with them, because it does look like quite a few young wild dogs within this pack. It might be a few members that have broken away from the pack to start their own group, but it's hard to see. I haven't really seen how many males and how many females, but normally there's quite a few females and one male. Might be that these could be 3 males that are by themselves. So the only way to say it is as soon as they can get up and we can have a look. So the one just got up in the shade right next to it. And it looks like this one is a young female. Just look at her stretching, very elegant. Look at that beautiful white tip at the end of the tail. But I agree with all the viewers. How beautiful, how amazing is it just to be able to spend some time with the wild dogs. I like to see what happens with these wild dogs if we do spend some time here. It's always amazing and it's always interesting to learn a little bit more about them. But in the meantime, let's head across to Steve at a waterhole and see what he might be up to.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Twin Dams Watering Hole, where we're sitting up waiting quite patiently for a herd of very lazy buffalo to come down and drink. And it is wonderful to have all of you with us this afternoon, and we are very excited to have you on board for what is going to be a rather special afternoon. In fact, everybody, I'm not sure how many of you know or remember or have heard the name Texan. Taksin Nkuna was a guide working here at Djuma for the last however many years, many years. And some of you who've been here on the Wild Earth expeditions would have met him last year and the year before. And it comes with very sad news from all of us that he unexpectedly passed away 2-3 mornings ago. Very sad news for everybody concerned. And so this afternoon's drive is dedicated to him and to his family, the Nkuna family. Taksin, who worked here for probably his whole career. Wonderful, wonderful gentleman. If you've met him before, you would agree. Very quietly spoken, but very firm in his beliefs and his opinions. And a wonderful gentleman to have worked on the ground with. So, as this lone buffalo youngster comes down to drink, to pay homage, and to the Nkuna family, who has in himself spent a huge amount of his life here, knows this area intimately, the animals and the people, and the service he's provided has been next level. So we send our condolences to the Nkuna family out there, and we wish Taksin well on his journey. Okay, well, we are going to be staying here, waiting for the rest of the herd to come down. Send you over to Lauren with the Nkuma Pride.
Thanks, Steve. A very special drive indeed. And the Nkuhumas are here, all of them. Not just a few lionesses or cubs, but every single one of them are here in front of us right now on this very special drive for Taksin, who was a dear friend to me. He taught me a lot about what I know out here. He contributed massively to my knowledge, and he always called me the crazy Mufazi. Yes, that means the crazy girl. And he meant it. So this is such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful drive to be here with the Nkuhumas just for Taksin. It's very, very smelly though, I must say, and they're still eating. So, before I forget to welcome all you regular viewers, my name is Lauren, and I do have Craig on camera. Oh, I never get used to the fact that the lionesses do the toilet where they sleep. Yes, never ever. So it's now just the cubs that are feasting on whatever is left of this buffalo. It really doesn't look much. And of course, we're very much looking forward to answering all your questions today. I was with the Talamati Pride yesterday, and now we've got the Nkuhuma Pride. I can only see Mohawk, only one of the Avokas. Oh, can you hear that? There's really not much left, so this is when tensions get a little bit high. The cubs will be very competitive with one another. And even with the adults. The vocalizations that are coming off the cubs are absolutely astounding. I have to say I'm quite shocked at how deep and aggressive the cubs are. And of course, they've been taught that way. That's exactly how their mothers treated them, but it's still a little bit of a surprise. And Reginald's boys, the oldest two, are now well over a year and 2 months.
Afternoon sessions, Nigel. Are there any?
Linda Poley, yes, they sure do love ribs. If you actually look at the rib cage here, it's very different from a human rib cage. Now, of course, it's bone, and it's structured similarly to hold in the organs and give structural support to the body, but it's very different from a human rib cage. And they're crunching away here. Now, I'm sure you don't need to hear my descriptive words for the smell. I don't know if I have any. It's awful. See all the flies? We're also covered in flies here. There has to be hyenas lying somewhere nearby. There has to be. The smell is so strong. And with nasal capacities like hyenas have, they must be able to smell this. I imagine just off in the distance, there'll be some spotted hyenas lying in wait. The area is covered in vultures, hooded vultures, whitebacks, all waiting for a tiny scrap of food. So we're going to sit here for a little bit longer and see how much more of this buffalo these lions are going to eat.
She hasn't. She's exactly where we left her, still enjoying the shade of, looks like a red bush willow, but there's not really many leaves. But these kind of patches are the perfect places for lions to rest because they blend into this grass so well. And then there's a little bit of a breeze that passes over the fairly open ground, which means she can keep cool because you saw her panting quite heavily. And then she also can just pop her head up every now and again, and it's easy to see any animals moving from a long distance away. So if a good opportunity came up, she doesn't look very hungry, but she might be able to hunt if the wind was right and all that. But you can see that she is being bothered a little bit by some flies. You see her ears just flicking every now and again. But you can see how well she camouflages. As we zoom out, you can see she's almost perfectly camouflaged in this environment. And that's why she's doing so well. She's really found a niche for herself here at this waterhole. No other lions seem to be coming down here for quite a while now. We hear them all the time roaring, but nothing is really coming, to the waterhole that we've seen. A couple of leopards here every now and again. Some hyenas are always terrorizing us in the camp, but no other lions, which means that we had a conversation earlier about whether she could start a pride on her own, and this seems like it would be the perfect spot for her to do so. If a male, we saw her feeding with a young male not long ago who had a limp, and his brother, I think it was, and if she mated with those lions, let's say in a year's time, and stayed in this area, she could maybe be successful. She might be able to raise a pride here without incurring the wrath of the other lionesses in that other pride of 5 that we see every now and again moving in our northern parts of pride lands. Which I think that she's probably from that same pride, but she's just been kicked away by the dominant male for being, too young to mate and offspring of someone else. But it's all speculation. I'm really enjoying getting to know this lioness and the lions around here, to see how they all fit together, how all their relationships and family and lineages and all that stuff. It's all quite new to me. I don't usually do that kind of stuff before, having been moving around quite a lot. But now that I've been on Pride Lands for the last couple of months, it's been so nice just to settle myself in and watch this lioness as she flourishes. I feel like just being very quiet for a moment. It's such a peaceful scene. So peaceful. But the only thing that I can hear is a few go-away birds in the distance. It's otherwise incredibly quiet. Much more quiet than it usually is at this time of day. More quiet than it was a few moments ago. Well, our lioness is going to continue to be very quiet. We'll send you over to some noisier ones.
I don't think they're really getting much here. They're just like nibbling and licking. I don't think there's much meat left at all.
Like full time done. See that one was shit or something all over its back. That's not mange. Well, on by the tail it is, but...
Mark?
On the one that's standing up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why, 25? How's it on where are you? At the moment I'm around the Impala place, trying to check around, maybe I'll pick up something. Roy said that there was England console coming in that side. You haven't picked up anything, eh? Where exactly?
Well, crunch, crunch, crunch from the lions. Sorry about that, everybody. These audio issues do happen from time to time. And we found a wonderful herd of elephants. Wonderful herd of elephants. There are so many ellies on the property at the moment. And, well, aren't they just regal? Such splendid fellows, and symbolic again. That lone buffalo bull coming down to drink. Something very special about how animals respond sometimes to the passing. There's no other animal out there that responds nearly as much as humans do to the passing of loved ones as do elephants. They seem to remember and mourn. Oh, and that one just told us what it thought of us. He's just learned how to use the tip of its trunk for grazing, and it's figuring out it's not that easy. Use your foot. Oh no, you've got to move your foot first. The funniest when you see these guys trying to use their trunk and their foot at the same time, and then they stand on their foot, on their trunk, and they fall over. Oh, yes, in the eye. Sometimes the motor hand-to-mouth skills are a little bit awkward with young elephants. They try to pick it up. Sometimes it goes straight to the mouth, and sometimes it goes into the eye. We've all seen that with babies, haven't we? When they try to feed themselves. It's never very pleasant. Well, it's a very pleasant sight, but it definitely doesn't serve the objective of food going into the belly. Oh, in the eye again. I know if I swing it in this direction, it gets to the mouth eventually. Oh, splendid. Honestly, everybody, I could spend all day with little elephants. Belto, how adorable indeed. This fellow's just taking a knee. Just showing us how cool it is. Oh, let me step over. Oh, I'll come back to this little one again, sorry. This little one was showing us his mouth a second ago. Just stay with that second one, that young one there, yeah. That's very cool. The young one's trying to figure out what's going on. He's probably still suckling. Where is Mum? I think he's got a bit of an itchy eye. Probably stuck a stick in there or a piece of grass at some point. Now the eye is watering. Oh, shame, little fella. Yes, there we go. Get the reed. Get the dwarf papyrus. Just stick it in your mouth. That's the easiest way when you can't use the trunk properly. Just stick it in the mouth. Eventually, they learn how to acquire the skills of feeding themselves quite effortlessly, but it takes time, everybody. It takes time and practice. Oh, I can dig, though. Look how good I am at digging. Yes. I'm a big elephant. I'm going to push you over. Very tactile, everybody. They love touching and feeling. They're very, very close-knit individuals from a young age. They require enormous amounts of care, enormous amounts of touching and feeling. Mick, baby elephants surprisingly can get up quite early after birth. In the first half an hour, 15 to 20 minutes even, they're up. They're very shaky, but they do, and they are able to move with the herd. The herd won't go very far initially. They're born at 110 kilograms. That's over 200 pounds at birth. They are able to move, but initially they can't stand up, and that is when Mum and the rest of the herd picks them up. But she will encourage it to follow them, and they won't go too far for at least the first day or two while it finds its feet. Oh, excuse me, I just want to push through over here. Well, the elephants of Djuma have come out today, everybody, to pay tribute to a legend who worked here. Those of you who might have missed that in the beginning, Taksin and Kuno, who worked here for many years, has sadly passed away. And the animals have come out to show their respects. Okay, from the Mulwati drainage system, the rivers here in Djuma, to the rivers of the Timavati.
It's so amazing. This is where, so early on we had the wild dogs, and unfortunately they moved away, so we couldn't follow them because we were in the river and they just moved over the river. And as we started turning around to follow them, there was we found these 3 elephant bulls basically digging up the water. But look at how deep this one is, literally putting its trunk down into that hole to try and get to the water. And there's 2 of them that are drinking at the moment. The other one probably had a drink and is now moving off from where they are, just to the left of our screen, maybe towards some trees from where it's going to be feeding. But look at this one here. So been digging water, suck up a bit of water in the trunk, pull it into its mouth, and now like blowing it and having a nice drink. What really stands out for me with these elephants is, of course, the light. Now, where we're sitting now, there's quite a bit of shade because of the trees that are on the bank, but where that elephant is just in the sunlight. Now, this one over here on the left, you'll notice it just had a drink, and from there on, it started moving up into the bank, and now slowly starting to feed. An elephant bull that size will probably have to eat at least quite a bit of food in a day. So I reckon his body size, probably well over 100 kilograms of food, so 200 pounds of food a day at least to sustain that big body. And now and again, as the sunlight catches the tusk, you can just see that little like shimmer of light reflecting off of it. Okay, with these particular bulls here is so let's pick one of the 2 that are drinking at the moment, so we can definitely have a look. Now it all depends. I mean, it depends on the size of the elephant, and even if you research this, there's quite a lot of theories. Some anywhere from 5 liters all the way up to 12, maybe 13 liters of water that it can pull up into its trunk. But I reckon an elephant this size, judging by the size of its trunk, will be able to at least pull close to 8-9 liters of water into that trunk, and then from there pull it into its mouth, and then push that into, and then of course just drink it. And it's amazing to see. I mean, for now, because they are digging in the river, it might be a lot less though, because you can just imagine as soon as you dig in the sand, it might collapse. So you can only pull a little bit of water before you have to dig again. So he might only be able to pull maybe 2 or 3 liters of water. Pull that into its mouth, drink it, and then dig again, and then suck up more water. So it might take a little bit longer for them to drink here than in comparison if they were at a big water hole. And what I always, as a young child, I used to believe that an elephant can actually just suck up all the water through the trunk. And I realized, but it's not like that, because if you look at an elephant, what it's doing now, it can't breathe through its mouth. It can only breathe through its trunk. But also it can't drink through its trunk. It can only breathe through the trunk. So it will pull up the water almost to the very top. And then from there on, pull it into its mouth and then push that. And then drink. And you'll notice with those long hair at the end of the chin of that elephant, as it's drinking, those little bits of water droplets that are dropping down. But quite a incredible sight. Just have a look at that one, just flicking the sand out of that hole, just in order to make space, or just to get some more water.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
So water is not just important to elephants, but also to buffalo, of which we found quite a large herd here at Leopard Dam. And they're just busy having a bit of a mud wallow. I'm not sure if they've drunk yet. We've just turned up and found them here. I'm not sure if they've had a drink yet, but certainly these buffaloes, with all this dry food that they eat, will probably be wanting to drink twice a day if possible. Probably be drinking about 40 liters of water a day. So that's quite a significant amount. And they're large animals. There's about 40 buffaloes here, maybe more. The herd, I'm not sure if it's growing in size, or if maybe a few extra bulls have joined them, but here you can see there's loads of them all spread along the edge. That's a nice bull over there in his prime. You see that heavy boss. There's a whole bunch of them. See how they're feeding on that green grassy material that's underneath that thorn tree there. So you can see there that when elephants push trees over, it shelters the grass underneath, and it makes that protected habitat. So these buffaloes are making use of that by pushing their big horns underneath there, moving the branches, and their skin is very tough as well. They don't worry too much about thorns. They can get right underneath there. In fact, buffaloes sometimes use the thorns to protect themselves. I've heard stories of buffaloes reversing themselves into thorny bushes so that the hindquarters are protected from attack, and then the heavy horns and boss, the strong front end, protects the front from any attack from lions or other predators. Forest, I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's so awesome to see a huge herd of buffalo like this at a waterhole. There's even a whole bunch of bulls just wading in there. That looks so good. It's quite warm this afternoon. I think over 20 degrees, something like 25, 26 degrees. So I wonder if maybe it's a nice afternoon for a swim. I'd love to come and have a swim, actually. There's no crocodiles in this waterhole that we know of. But of course, one rule of thumb in Africa is you never go swimming in any water that's murky, because you never know what might be lurking in the depths. These buffaloes are pretty big, though. I don't think they'll be too worried about any crocodiles. Well, whilst these buffaloes wade in the water, we'll send you over to Dylan, who's doing something a little different.
So this is really cool what we got here. And it's not the whole tree. The tree is always amazing to see. But just in front of me here, just underneath over here, you can see this nest. And you can see how fresh and active it is. Well, when I say fresh, it's actually just that red heartwood, that orangey gold and / red heartwood from these trees, this camelthorn tree. You might have been with me earlier and seen that big dead tree that I was standing in. Same species as as this one. This one's just a living one. So nests like this, often it forms by having a dead branch like this one that I've got over here. You get a dead branch that forms, and what happens with these dead ones, you often get, what do you call it, like bacteria and things that get in there, and then it starts rotting this little piece, and that makes it easily accessible for things like woodpeckers. And that's a typical hole of a woodpecker. Out here in this region, we only got two kinds, golden-tailed and cardinal. I would guess, going on the size, that's probably a golden-tailed woodpecker using that. But those nests can also be used by a whole range of other things as well. And there's a really, really interesting project that we've been looking at. We kind of started looking at one stage in terms of hole nesting species and the competition between them. And when I talk about hole nesting, I'm talking about birds specifically, and the competition between them and bees. Because what bees do is, if they take over a hole like that, which they will do, then as they sort of build a hive, that gets packed up with wax. And what happens? The birds can't get into it. So along comes the honey guard. So we've got slender and greater honey guard that occur here. And those little guys will actually clean out the wax from these nests. So your honey guards in this environment can actually be very, very, very important for maintaining nesting sites for other birds. And because we don't have a huge amount of trees, I mean, if you compare our trees to where our colleagues are working, Phinda, Djuma, those kind of areas, they've just got so many different kinds, and and big ones and small ones and medium ones, and that's like something from Fantastic Mr. Fox. Bogus, Bunsen, Bean. but yeah, so we've got small, medium and large trees out there, whereas here we've actually got a relatively limited amount of trees, and as a consequence your nesting sites are also limited and at a premium, and we've got a lot of species that are dependent on whole nests in these kind of trees. That's just how interesting. We happen to see that as going past, but it's really cool. And these trees, there's just so much life in them, on them. Michelle says that's so cool, and 100% right. But it also just shows, it comes back to that whole thing of how intricate these systems are. It's not just a hole in a tree. There's like a whole little story behind that. And every single one of these nesting sites, nesting holes, will be different. You get even tinier little holes. I mean, this dead branch over here in front of me, I mean, you can't see it from there. Let me lean over and it breaks off. That'll be funny. But there's a whole lot of little holes over here, and you can get ants that nest inside these branches as well. It's absolutely endless and incredibly fascinating.
Thanks, Dylan. Don't fall down the tree now, everybody. Seems like everybody's come out to play today. Sorry about the radio. We'll see now that we've got a wonderful two-shot on this buffalo herd that's decided to wake up and get involved. They're walking away from the water, probably towards the west at the moment. North, west. Wonderful two-shot of the buffalo and another herd of elephants. I knew they wouldn't be lying down forever. Really wanted to capture them going to have a drink, but I think they might have done already before they lay down, or maybe they don't quite like the taste and they'll go drink somewhere else. So if they keep heading north, they'll head up Chelapan, Vuetelapan, or Treehouse Watering Hole if they veer a bit more west from where they are. There's a few choices, and I've no doubt they will drink once they've filled their bellies again after this afternoon of slumber and ruminating. It's now time to fill the rumen once again with a whole lot of new grass, and then drink again, and then they will spend some time once again in the afternoon, evening, having a little chill. Hello, Arthur, 6 years old. You want to know the difference between male and female buffaloes? Well, I have to show you two of them at the same time for you to be able to see. Have you got them? Yes, okay, so there is a female buffalo. Can you see she's got the horns, but on top it's a little bit furry. Now the male, if we can find one for you, I'm sure we will. He has got, there's one on the right there, that one over there, the big one. He's got like a helmet on the top of his head. There he goes, a few boys there, a younger one and a, oh come on. We will get you another one. But the male's got a big helmet on the top of his head, which we call the boss. It's because they are the boss. They use that for ramming into each other's heads. Buffalo bulls, when they fight head on. Females don't really fight with each other, but their horns are designed for hurting predators that are trying to maybe catch their babies or themselves. But it's quite a big herd moving through the thickets here, and I'm sure we're going to get a male popping out soon that we can show you the difference. There's a little youngster. It's hard to tell when they're that old. Oh, he's busy chewing and chewing and chewing. Well, we're going to send you over to and beyond Punda with some fast cats.
We are indeed with some fast cats, although right now equally as slow as any cat out there, as they're not doing anything at all, Steve. But yes, some very fast cats indeed. We have two young male cheetahs. So those who were with me this morning, I was with two brand new male cheetah. These aren't the two male cheetah from this morning. These are two different cheetah. We are much further west than where we were this morning, and these are younger cheetah who have over about just around a year ago become independent, and so they're at the stage of their life where they're starting to set up territory, and they've positioned themselves in some very lovely grass. You'll see both of their heads are up, which is typical with cheetah, but looking at the size of their bellies, that their heads are up as well, most likely in the hope that some prey will come on by. But we have positioned in a beautiful area where in the next half an hour, the sun will be setting directly west of us, which is west of these cheetah, and we should have, unless these cheetah move, a beautiful sunset in the distance with these two young cheetah. I believe everyone is saying that the light is gorgeous, and it is indeed, and it is starting to get to that golden hour, and cheetah are one of those animals which most certainly look absolutely beautiful in the golden hour. And one of the reasons being is that their contrasting color on their coat, with those dark spots, dark tear marks, and black ears behind their ears, blackness behind the ears, and you'll notice how that black is sticking out. Now, one of the reasons that they have those black ears is a bit of a follow me sign, and you can imagine when these two cheetah are walking through the grass that those ears, oh, so they gave them a bit of a fright. I think the one cheetah actually flicked the other cheetah in the face with its tail, and they all ended up jumping up, and that's just how alert they are. Any sound, anything at all that could be potential danger will cause them to jump up and get ready to run, because out of the large cats, they are at the bottom, the weakest of all of them, and they have to be very aware of any other predators in the area.
I do love cheetahs, Jared, I do, and they're in a genus of their own. They're not very closely related to what I'm looking at, Panthera leo, at all. And Despite being classified as a felid, cheetah have actually a few things in common with the canids, which means the dog family, all 34 of them. And their skeleton is said to be more similar to a dog rather than a cat, like what you're looking at right now. And they have a scapula, which is your shoulder blade, that big, huge, well, ours are not so huge, but if you think of a lion and a leopard, their shoulder blades are huge. And cheetahs are said to have a shoulder blade built like a grey wolf, which is obviously part of the Canidae family, rather than the Felidae, which is your cats. Its milk is also said to be very, very similar. I'm sure it's above 90% similar to an African wild dog. And it's more similar to a wolf milk than it is to any cat, believe it or not. So cheetahs are cats, don't get me wrong, that's not what I'm saying, but they just have a lot of similarities with the Canidae family. I miss spending time with cheetah, I must say. But we have our very special lions here. Now, I've just been looking at sort of the mange on the cubs, and it seems to be the same since the last time I saw them, which was a good few weeks ago. But the youngsters are definitely scarred. I think this youngster has something messy there. I don't think that's a... oh, it maybe is. I can't tell if that large patch is just wet, muddy, delicious liquid from the buffalo, but the scarring down the tail is definitely from the mange. And one of the other cubs has it quite severely on its rear end. But they're all looking very, very healthy. And I think the fact that winter is going to be really, really not too harsh out here, the Nkuhuma cubs are going to be absolutely fine. They really have demolished, that's the only word I can decide, demolished this buffalo. Painted wolf, you're saying hee buffalo juice. Cannot think of anything more delightful than some buffalo juice. There you go. Craig's giving you the most wonderful view of the sticky matter. I actually think that is just sticky matter. I don't think it's anything from the mange. I don't think it's scarring or hair loss from mange. And the Nkuhumas regularly take down buffalo on the southern boundary. They seem to be avoiding the northern part of Djuma from what I can gather, and I do wonder if that is because of the Talamatis. Nkuhumas have pushed very far down south and expanded their territory to go down south. So they do come back to Djuma, it's very much part of their territory. They don't seem to push as far north as they used to. They will be very much aware of the Talamati pride and all the other neighbouring prides, including the Torchwood pride, the Styx pride, and be very aware of the other prides in the area. I promise these lionesses are alive. It's starting to get a little bit cooler, which is wonderful. And I'm slightly torn. I want to sorry, Emma, I'm not sure if you just spoke there. We're having a little bit of a comms issue here. I think it's the location of where we are. Okay. Now I'm going to make a decision whether to quickly just pop in at the hyena den, see if anybody's there. I've got to keep checking, or stay with these lions. So while I decide, we're going to send you guys back across to Steve.
Hello everybody, welcome back to a buffalo bull sighting. You can now actually see the buffalo bull with the female. Oh, now she's moved, but you see the boss on top of the head. Very well formed sort of helmet. And he's a very very good condition male buffalo. In the herd is all slowly moving, and we've just been sitting and listening to the sounds that they make as they feed. There's a little one, look at that guy. Oh, hello. A little bit out of season, maybe. Buffalo calves are generally all born in the summer months when the green grass is very available and water is very close. In these parts of South Africa, other parts of Africa where there's a more sort of year-round rainfall, the buffalo breeding can be a little bit more all year round. But it's not impossible to have a late baby. It's just not well adapted because of the temperature, or the lack of food, should I say. Oh, some very feisty boys there. Lots of testosterone. These boys will pick up on the scent of a female, and they'll all try and vie for her attention. Gets very pushy and shovey. That's the reason why we find those groups of dugger boys that eventually just get so very, very tired of all of the nonsense that plays out in the herd.
It hasn't been too far of a drive before we found some more elephants, or actually just one more elephant in the river. And you'll notice this one's also drinking. And just notice the color of the trunk, and you can actually see how deep this one, or how deep the water is in the hole, by just measuring the water, the level of water on the trunk. But notice his tusks. His tusks are a little bit longer than the ones we saw earlier, and quite dirty, except towards the tips. You'll notice there's a little sheen of white. So that's probably the end of the tusk that he's been using a bit more regularly, so it's just brushed a bit of that sand and mud away. Kerry definitely having a big smile here, especially having such a nice drink and having such a beautiful view to look at. So where that elephant is, remember earlier we had the wild dogs? So the wild dogs were 100 meters just in that direction of the river, so on the opposite side of where he is now. So, and a kilometer from that is where the leopard was, up in the tree as well. So this whole stretch here has been very productive this afternoon, but very special. Really, really special area to be in. So also, because we're in this low-lying area here where the river is, the air also here is nice and cool, and there's like this fresh scent of reeds in this whole area. And you can even smell a bit of the water, because as the elephants are digging up, there's quite a bit of elephant dung around, there's some wet sand, and also you'll just smell these, now and again, these little whiffs of water as you drive through the river. And that's probably what the elephants smell as they were feeding along the banks, and then came into this area to dig up for the water.
everybody. We're with our herd still moving through the long grass, and I wonder if all of you will just take a moment with me as we just all come together and take a moment of silence and memories of the very dear man Tex, who worked here in this environment for so long. If you wouldn't mind all just maybe taking off your hat and spending a moment in silence with us, we'd really appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. Animals and birds really came out in full chorus there. Do appreciate your time, your moments. He's a very well-liked and well-loved gentleman here. Gentleman, I say that. Very, very astute gentleman. We shall celebrate his life. Yeah, thank you, everybody. That was quite special. Really, I think that was beautiful. I think that was beautiful. Thank you, Theo. That was a good job. Okay, we're going to just spend a few more moments enjoying the sounds of these buffalo.
very special moment. So we're still with our buffalo herd. They've left Leopard Dam now, and they're actually walking almost directly southeast back towards Ndlovu Dam. As you can see them all now feeding slowly in a direction. They're not going to go fast. They'll take it nice and slow and easy. Feeding, they're big animals, they need to feed a lot. Oh, there, one there, looks like he's covered in mud. Look what he's going to do. He's going to go and have a good scratch. Sometimes underneath those horns it gets very itchy. I don't know if you ever wear a belt all day long and then you just want to scratch. It's itchy. You wear a suit or something and you can't scratch at those itches. Look at that, that's amazing. Okay. That's why the horns on old buffaloes become so smoothed with age. Because they scratch themselves all over these branches and trees, and eventually it becomes worn down and smooth. Even the ends of the horns, the tips, will become very, very worn out. But they're going to head, basically, oh, now he's having a good scratch on the side. Oh, look at that. Nothing like a good scratch. I bet he's going to go and scratch his bum next, no doubt. Oh no, not this tree. This tree is saved from that fate. But yes, these buffaloes will drink, twice a day if possible. So this morning they were closer to Ndlovu Dam by our camp. This afternoon they're all the way here, and they'll feed slowly back towards Ndlovu Dam. It's actually very interesting to start figuring out their patterns. At the moment they are doing the same thing every day, just trying to get as much food as possible. Look at this one with all the dried mud on its face. Emma's saying that this buffalo looks like it's had a self-care day. It's been doing some mudding. Very important. I've often thought, I wonder what the clay mud here, it must be very good for the skin actually. Draws out all the toxins and oils that are bad for you. This buffalo is going to be glowing tomorrow, just absolutely glowing. Of course, they don't usually use it for exfoliating, these buffaloes. They're mostly just using it to protect themselves from biting insects and from the sun and the heat. But of course, a byproduct of that, when they scratch, it does rub off any of those parasites and ticks. It's so nice to see them just all close to us. And yesterday they were quite nervous of the vehicle. I'm not sure why. I mean, we haven't been seeing them all that often. They're quite new to Pride Lands. They've moved into this area. So I think they were getting used to us. But now they seem to have basically gotten used to our presence. They're allowing us to be close to them, which is nice. It's always good to... It's one of the great things about doing these drives. You don't have to move around too much. You can just spend time with animals and watch them. And all these buffaloes you can see are just loving this grass. And we're loving them. Gorgeous.
So it seems like it's just a bit of a spotty scene at the moment. The one male is completely passed out, and the other male is grooming. And as usual with cats, that could be a bit of a positive sign. Grooming might mean that he gets up and moves. But I don't think they're going to move too far. Now, cheetah typically only hunt during the day. The reason why I use the word typically is male cheetah, or at least cheetah in coalitions, are known to hunt at night. But this is seen more on full moon than any other time, and they typically wouldn't hunt when it's very, very dark. So I don't think that they're going to hunt tonight, and that's probably why they are where they are right now. It's a fairly open area, open enough that they could see anything coming in. But it is a time of day that antelope are moving into the areas where they're going to rest. So just because it is starting to get towards the evening doesn't mean that they won't hunt. But hopefully they're going to get up pretty soon, or at least sit up and show us a little bit of their beauty. Now, lions and cheetah and leopards all behave slightly different in the process of waking up. We all know that they yawn and groom, and you'll find that lions tend to do that for the longest. They can yawn and groom for half an hour, and then stand up and take 5 steps and flop down. Leopards will often yawn once or twice, groom, and then stand up and keep walking. And you will find cheetah a little bit somewhere in between. But they don't tend to yawn or groom for as long as lions. So hopefully this grooming now means that they're going to get up. Maybe 2 minutes ago they were both sitting up, looking and listening, and then they flop down again, and now this male's up again. You'll notice the nice flat tail of the male behind him busy flicking some flies off. That's a highly important tail that cheetah have, very flat, to help them with counterbalancing when they run as fast as they can. Indley, you are most certainly correct. It is a beautiful cheetah landscape. Normally when you think of cheetah, you think of them just being in a big open area. This area where we are at the moment, we're very fortunate to have some open areas, some trees, but an absolutely stunning mountain range off in the distance. And then very soon the sun is going to set behind that. So it's not a bad place to view a cheetah. If they would just sit up and let us admire their beauty, it would be that much better. But I'm holding thumbs. They don't tend to be as lazy as lions, although they do and can be very lazy as well. I haven't seen this cheetah for some time, so I'm not sure when last they killed. Linda, they use all three. Cheetah's hearing, eyesight, and smell is very acute, but their strongest sense is their eyesight. If you had to put on or look through a pair of binoculars, they say that is how good a cheetah's eyesight is. And you'll see if these cheetah do look at us, they do have fairly large eyes, which will obviously help with that. And so when they see prey or predators off in the distance, their eyesight is their strongest of their three senses. But that being said, all three are very, very good. And they would need to have a good sense of hearing, because if they are to be lying down and a lion, leopard or hyena was to approach, they may only hear the breaking of the grass or sand as the lion walks over it. So although the ears do look quite small, the ears are, or the hearing is very good. And probably why the ears are so small in comparison to the other cats is just because they need to be as streamlined as possible. Everything about a cheetah, from its large nostrils to its flat, small head, to its very rigid spine, to its small rib cage, which allows for more movement of the legs, for its long legs, the fact that it has semi-retractable claws, the long tail that isn't circular in shape but more flat in shape. Everything about a cheetah, even the small ears, is all designed for them to be the fastest land mammal in the world. And you'll see while he looks around, although his ears at the moment are busy flicking off flies, the entire time their ears are busy moving left and right, listening to what's behind them, listening to what's in front of them. And that will also just show you that they do highly need those ears of theirs to hear anything off in the distance.
So this is a slightly different thing that we're chatting about here, but it is actually really, really interesting. Well, I find it very interesting, at least. This area surrounding me, it's very, very barren underneath. But if you look at these trees, these again, they're all camel thorn trees, like the big dead one that we saw, the one with the little bird's nest in it. But what is striking about this group of trees is that they're all pretty much the same size. It's what we call a cohort. So in other words, this whole cohort of trees here is, and like, even if, hey, there's a giraffe, by the way, it's stashed away inside there somewhere. But this whole area of here, if Darby pans across to the right as well, you'll see these trees are all a really uniform size. And that's quite unusual in a system. There's ways that can happen naturally, but I'm going to take an absolute guess as to what's happened here. There is an old water crib, a drinking point for it would have been livestock originally. I'm going back 30, 40 years, I guess. And I would take a guess, because these trees are so densely packed over here and they're all of a uniform size, I would be willing to bet if you had to go back on the rainfall records of the area, you'll find that 20, 30 years ago, however long ago, there would probably have been a critical point in one of these, or maybe a couple of different successive rainfall seasons where they had very, very poor rains, below annual average. And what the local people in these areas often do is they actually collect camel thorn seed pods, and when we find some fresh ones, I'll actually show them to you. But these are highly nutritious, very, very high protein content, and they are often collected during droughts and fed to livestock. And because you had a water point over here, these animals were congregating around this area, and then all these camel thorn seed pods, if in fact that's what was happening, would actually have been in the droppings, and that would have resulted in a uniform cohort of these camel thorn trees. Anyway, so that's just out of interest. You can see there's some giraffe legs sticking out there. I'm assuming it's attached to the rest of the giraffe.
There's quite a lot of amazing things happening at the moment. So I just want to show this. We have our hyena here, Owen. I'm going to show off to the right. There's actually a ground hornbill moving off to the right here. So it is going to be hard to see. I mean, there's actually two of them, and it might just move in behind that cover. But we have ground hornbills there, and on top of it all, we have a leopard lying down in the grass next to us. So we just want to try and follow this. There's a lot happening, so we just want to see that ground hornbill moving off. This hyena is right next to us now. I'm going to be quiet so you can hear the grass moving right next to us. But just listen out to this hyena. I just want to see where it goes off. But the leopard is not too far from where the hyena is. Just want to make sure I don't disturb the hyena if I move back. But I'm going to ask that everyone just bear with me for a couple of seconds as I move the vehicle back. Just wanted that hyena to move out of the way. I didn't want to disturb it at all. I'm just going to move back. I can see there's a leopard there, and there's one in here, but you can't really see this one too well. So we just go back a bit, and then hopefully put my steering wheel hard left. There we go. How's that for a view? Now, earlier on, this hyena actually came and chased this leopard. You can see the leopard actually looking at this hyena. Not too impressed because he chased him. Megan, it's been incredible. I mean, just to give you an idea, there's the southern ground hornbill, the hyena's right here. There's two different leopards here. And it's not even that one we saw earlier up in the tree. Then we had the elephants and the wild dogs. So it's just been and the lions from this morning, all in this area within a space of 2 kilometers. It is absolutely incredible this afternoon. I've been very, very lucky. Oh, look at that yawn. If you look at the teeth, you'll notice the teeth are still very light in color. So it tells us that, combined with the overall size of the leopard, as well as that color on the end of the nose, and also looking around the face of this leopard, it tells us it's a young leopard. So most likely, the young male of what's known as the Tswalu leap. Now, Tswalu means a bushveld gardenia. It's quite a beautiful tree that you find in this part of South Africa. And this whole group of leopards here, this whole leap of leopards, we refer to as the Tswalu leap because the mother was born in one of the drainage lines where there's a lot of these bushveld gardenias, and because of the Shangar name for it, it's called Tswalu. So there's just a referral of the leopard in this area. See, something's moved in the grass then, and it's definitely caught his attention. He's not too fussed with the hyena now, but definitely something moved, and he's just having a look.
everybody. I'm going to be quiet and see if you can hear everything. Not sure if you heard that moments ago. That was a greater honey guard calling. It's very cool. I haven't seen one here. I've heard them a few times. But this African weeping wattle stands no chance against this onslaught of a herd of 10 elephants. And the Eddies are all being very vocal today. Lots of screaming. Consulting detective, there's a number of trees that they love the bark of. All acacias, the weeping wattle, the red bush willows, the variable and the large fruited bush willows are favoured. They not only the bark but the roots, but they seem to love the bark of these wattles. And these wattles have been utilised and used in traditional medicine for helping with colic or indigestion and tummy ailments. And elephants have got an enormous tummy, and like horses, have the potential to get a lot of gas in their belly. And this time of year, they seem to really smash these wattles, leaving the leaves completely alone, just feeding on the bark. It almost looks like it's a chocolate bonanza shop that's opened up in the corner, and they're giving out free Haagen-Dazs scoops. The elephants are in there. I know Emma would be right in the front of the queue. So would you, Theo, hey? Theo would be right in there, and BK, who's gone away on leave, would be right up there with Trisha. They will be fighting to get to the front. That's what it seems like these elephants are going through. The deliciousness of the ice cream flavour. Obviously, none of the plants out here quite have the same flavours of foods we eat. And I've eaten some of that bark. It's rather bitter, but it serves the purpose. Medicine. What does Mary Poppins say? A spoonful of sugar helps it go down, doesn't it? Splendid afternoon with Africa's giants. Seeing that herd of buffalo intermingling with a herd of elephants with no animosity between the two. Elephants can quite often get a bit grumpy when herds of buffalo emerge into their ranks, chasing them away. But we're going to just sit back here and watch the descending sun, as I think Lauren Arthur is doing the same.
I'm admiring the sunset behind that huge dead leadwood on Leadwood Road, weighed down by heavy whiteback vultures. A time for reflection, and it was such a beautiful moment of silence earlier for dear Taxon, and I'm just sitting here thinking of him. Such a wonderful, wonderful human being who really taught me so much, and his belief was there's no point in learning if you don't pass on your knowledge. And that's exactly how I'm going to live my life now. Pass on all the knowledge that you know and keep learning. The most patient birds in the bush. It must all be worth it. Craig and I were talking about that earlier. To wait for days on end, it must be worth it at the end. Whatever morsels of food they get must be worth it. Now, we checked on the hyena den. Nobody's home, but I imagine the hyenas are somewhere waiting on food. The cubs will be inside, and as always, I will continue to check. But we do have a very sleepy boy in front of us. Shall we show this lion? I slightly blinded by the sun. I have circles in front of my face, but I think this is mohawk. It's either mohawk or blondie. We know the dark mane is in Buffelshoek with the Talamatis, and there's another body behind that I can't quite see properly, which I think is the other Avoca. I think we have both of them here. Bless me. Sorry about that. Yes, somewhere up there, Craig is going to show you, is another lion. I think it's another belly, actually. A huge, bulbous belly. I always admire how the males stay slightly back from the females. They always give them space. So my lions are not going anywhere for now, but I believe the cheetahs at Pinda are.
So as promised earlier, we have the sunset, and directly west from them, the cheetah. How absolutely gorgeous is that, and just in time. So we're going to get the second male on the right, walking right in front of the sun with the dead trees silhouetted. What a absolutely incredible way to celebrate yet another beautiful sunset here in Africa. So I think that these, looking at the size of the bellies of these males, I don't think they're going to walk too far. They don't look too hungry. I think they're just going to find a slightly more comfortable place to rest. It is more open behind us, and the grass is a little bit shorter, and there's a bit of a hill on the other side, which is much better for them while they view their territory. Just going to reverse around. They are right on the road behind me. I'm going to see them walking down the road. Alright, we're going to quickly head over to Ngala while we follow these males, and I'm sure we're going to have a stunning view of them just up ahead shortly.
Such a beautiful sunset this evening, so we just wanted to show everyone the beautiful sunset, and then we managed to reposition and we saw one of the other youngsters of this particular leap of leopards that we were looking at. So you'll notice there's a bit of a game trail going up on the bank here, and you might just see the foot of this leopard because it is grooming itself. So right there. But very well camouflaged as well. Now it's hard to see. I mean, early on we could have been looking at either the young male or the young female. And either way, vice versa. This could be the young female possibly, or even the young male. But we'll have to see once it starts moving a bit closer. Can't really see where this leopard has moved off to, but he's definitely straight behind us. So what we'll need to do now is, unfortunately, we'll just have to wait and see where does he move to, because we don't want to move the vehicle. He's actually gone. Oh, it is the young male. So he has moved up to the bank. We'll try and see if we can get another glimpse of him, but in the meantime, let's head across to Dylan.
Welcome everyone to our main lodge. This is our 5-star facility. It's looking a bit run down now, but it should be okay. No, I'm just kidding. This is really, really cool. And this is actually the first time that I've been to this place in my time on Tswalu. This is actually a very, very, very old farmhouse. It's one of the original farmhouses in this entire area. You're looking dated back to about 1920s, 1930s, give or take. And the one thing I was just saying to Darby now is, you know, we come out here, we got these great modern vehicles, we got these incredibly beautiful facilities where people can stay. You know, everything is it just works. But think about this. And I mean, I guess there's a lot of examples globally of this. Imagine this environment 100 years ago. Okay, there was none of the modern conveniences that we got now. But someone says to his wife, "Kom vrou, nou trek ons Kalahari toe. Come my wife, we are now going to the Kalahari." And this is where you end up? Yeah, I think there would have been a lot of unhappy ladies out there, I can tell you that right now. And yet, people made a life of these kind of things. You know, and you know, this is just one example of many across the world where people really went out on a limb and tried to make a go of living in these environments. I don't know how successfully, but certainly, you know, this is just a very, very cool little bit of history of the reserve. Rian says, imagine the stories. I can tell you, you know, I'm not a very superstitious person at all. But sometimes you get like a really creepy feeling when you go into a place. I walked in here. Wait, no, stop. No, I'm just kidding. Nothing happened. But you never know what happens in these places.
Welcome back to some stripes and spots. This is absolutely incredible. We've just had a bit of a stare-off between, well, it was, I think, 5, looked like stallions, 5 males. We had a bachelor herd of zebra and these 2 male cheetah. These 2 cheetah not interested in the zebra at all. The zebra are just far too big for them. And those zebra know, A, by the behavior of the cheetah, reading their body language, that these cheetah aren't hunting them. But they're also very aware that they are far too big for those cheetah. The reason why they didn't run off is it is one of those things, rather see where your enemy is than run away and get snuck up from behind. So the one male's peeled off to the right, which is quite interesting. And the other males continued on the road. I'm just going to quickly reposition. They're just up ahead, hoping those zebra come out again and investigate. So that was spectacular. They must have been about 10-15 meters from each other. So it's something you see every day. I wish I had my camera with me. It would have been so spectacular. But I get to remember it here, and that's all that matters. Patty, it was most certainly a fantastic view. So they've just moved off into the grass. How incredible is their camouflage now? So lovely long grass, which is perfect for them to hide. They're moving away from those zebra for a few reasons. One, they don't really want to get into a tussle. With a zebra, a kick and a stomp could damage them. But the zebra, well, they were also alarming at them. And the more that the zebra alarm at them, one, this could let all the other prey in the area know that the cheetah are around if they were thinking of hunting. The other problem is that if there are any lions around, and the lions heard the zebra is alarming, they would come and investigate. 1, maybe to hunt the zebra, but 2, to probably see who is in their territory. Now, you probably noticed this male that we're busy looking at now. He had his tail raised in the air and flicking rapidly. That is how cheetahs scent mark. They love to scent mark on trees, and you can see he's just beeline for another tree over there, and you'll see that he'll put his tail in the air like an aerial and flick it very rapidly from side to side. But stunning creatures, stunning view. What a way to end off a beautiful evening here at Pinda Private Game Reserve.
Our cubs are up. No one else appears to be. The 2 cubbies are. I think the prey is going to start moving very, very soon. It's that perfect time of night, and what I'm looking forward to seeing is 1, where they go. I think it might be for water, and 2, the vultures descend. That's exactly what they're waiting for, space at the carcass. The cubs are restless. One cub, I noticed, this may have already been spotted before, this is my first time seeing the Nkohumas in a few weeks, has got an eye injury on its left eye. It looks a little bit weepy, a little bit infected, so we'll try and get a look at that if the cubs decide to come a little closer, which I don't think they are. They're lying right on the southern boundary, which is one of the main sort of roads for traffic. So I think there's going to be quite the traffic jam. I really don't see the lions being around tomorrow. Veronica, yes. They're so big. They're like little mini adults now. Remember that journey we have, discovering litter after litter after litter. It's been a wonderful success story for the Nkohumas. Even with the mange.
I'm joining a log of Nkohuma.
Mange is really prevalent throughout the animal kingdom. It's very common, especially in mammals. And it does cause dehydration, it can weaken the immune system, but overall, many mammals can survive mange. And it's a test to their immune system. It can actually make them stronger as individuals if they're able to survive and thrive through mange. Okay, lions everywhere. I think we're going to move and see what the rest of the pride are up to.
Lions everywhere, and lions as well as the moon will be rising, or it is already in the sky, but the sun descends on the horizon. And I know, everybody, it is my last drive for this stint, but this afternoon is all about a very special gentleman. So I am going to do what I normally do and have with all of you a very nice special moment of just listening to the end of the day. going to sit right here and send you back over to Ambion and Carla.
That young male leopard eventually got up and started stalking those ground hornbills we saw earlier on. But then a hyena chased the ground hornbills away as it was following this leopard. Now just to show, look how carefully this leopard is trying to move away. Now off to the left here, there's a hyena lying down on one of the game trails. Now from a few weeks ago, we noticed that this particular hyena, it might be the same one, it might be a different one, follows these leopards, because as soon as they make a kill, he'll chase them off the kill and then take the kill from there. And what's interesting is every time we find this or these leopards here, we also see a hyena around, and I wonder if it's not exactly the same one that is following them at the moment. We'll see if this leopard starts slinking when the hyena gets up. We can basically tie it all together and say this is what the hyena is doing. So like we mentioned earlier, how the hyenas tend to follow the wild dogs and wait for them to make a kill, just like that, if these leopards make a kill, this hyena is going to be around to steal it. Because being a young leopard, I mean, with the hyena is most likely going to chase that leopard off a kill. But if he was a big dominant male, the chances are he could stand against one hyena, but normally two hyenas might just chase that leopard. Stripers from a pretty early age. I've seen leopard cubs that are around about 2 months old that are excellent tree climbers. So around about from 2 months, that's when you can start seeing them climbing up into trees, especially if there's a lot of danger. When they're a little bit younger than that, I think they're too small for that. They're more likely to run into quite dense cover, but they really develop quite amazing tree climbing skills from 5.5, maybe 6 months. And even now, I mean, if there's had to be any danger and this male can run, he'll probably run into a tree that will basically support his weight, but he'll be so quick into that tree. And you see it often with lions as well. As soon as lions move into an area, these leopards will rush. If they don't run into the really dense cover, they'll run up to the very top of the tree so the lions can't get to them. There's another hyena actually moving at the back, and that's what he's looking at. Yeah, it's hard to see. The hyena's moved off into, there's a little drainage system right next to us. In the meantime, while we are going to try and figure out what's exactly happening here, why there's so many hyenas in the area, if they're just following the leopard, or maybe if there's a carcass around here as well. Let's send you across to Mike at Pridelands to have a look at that lioness.
Right, so we're still with Lagatha, the lioness, and as you see, she is fast asleep. She's got a full belly. She's not interested in doing anything too active. She just wants to lie here and wait. And we're happy to wait with her. It's not every day we get to sit next to a lion and watch it have a restful slumber. What's interesting is a moment ago, Seven Eye weren't sure whether she was having a dream because her mouth was moving. Almost looked like she was dreaming of eating something delicious because her mouth was... In fact, she's doing it again. You can just see her chin just working every now and again. I wonder what would lions dream of? If I was a lion, I'd dream of chasing things through the grass. Just like she did the other day. Very exciting. Now, actually, we get a really good view of her face, and you can see those few scratches that she's got. She's been in a few fights, it looks like. A lot of these kind of small scratches she would have gotten from her siblings when she was growing up, or other members of the pride, fighting over whatever food there is. They're very, very tough animals. So you can see those few scratches there. That's almost certainly from little squabbles with her family. And you can also nicely see her pink nose here. Also, usually one of the indications that she's still quite young, as well as the spots on her side and on her legs there as well. A little bit of the spots might remain even into adulthood, full adulthood, but generally much more pale and tawny. Not so much of this spotted colours. You can see how she's lying with her legs wide open and her belly facing the air. There's a little bit less fur under her hind legs than there is on the rest of her body, so this is a good way for her to get some cool air. She's certainly not panting as heavily as she was, but still nice deep breaths. Lagatha's done us proud. We said she was a warrior, and there she's managed to take something down. Which is great. Glad to see that she's got a nice full belly. It's a bit of a sunset chorus happening now. A lot of birds, a lot of hornbills calling around us. There's quite a few long-tailed or magpie shrikes calling as well. It's a nice serenade. Actually a wonderful thing to fall asleep to. No wonder this lion is sleeping so deeply. Although she's sleeping, she's still going to be alert. You can see the ears are flicking every now and again as the flies bother her, and that's just an automatic response. But, you know, if either one of us, Seb or I, was to get out the car, I mean, within a step or two, she would be up and investigating what was that noise, because they're very, very alert when especially when she's alone like this. She can't afford to sleep too deeply in case a larger predator like a lion might sneak up on her. But I don't think there's any large lions around here, so Lagatha's going to sleep soundly.
So these two males have picked up on the scent, I think, of another cheetah. I'm not sure whether it's a male or female cheetah. It's always very difficult to tell. But they've been smelling vigorously throughout this area. And every single time they seem to lose the scent, they stop and they smell around a bit. If it is another male, they would want to chase it out of their territory. Male cheetah are territorial. If it is a female, maybe it's a female that could be an estrus, and they would hopefully want to mate with her. And so that's why they might want to track her down. We do, unfortunately, in this area have female cheetah with very young cubs. And I'm not aware that any of those cubs are these males, which would be devastating, because if they were to come across those cubs, they would kill them. That being said, cheetahs are very secretive when they mate. So two of the females in this area we assume are from another male, but could easily be from either of these two males. So they've obviously picked up on the scent there again. You can see how the one male's been smelling there for quite some time. And the other male now is busy smelling there as well. Either it's an area where those cheetah or that particular cheetah lay down, or an area where they urinated. So if you were to find urine away from a tree or away from anywhere where they may have scent marked, that's often an indicator it would be a female, as females wouldn't be scent marking. So he's come now to this little bit of open patch of grass, thinking that maybe this is where the cheetah lay down. He would be trying to work very hard on figuring out, is it a male or female? He'd be able to smell if it's multiple cheetah, and in that case it would be female with cubs. One of the females with cubs we haven't seen in a while, or at least in her usual area, so they may have moved eastwards from their territory into these open grasslands, which is a very popular area for cheetah. And if they do sense that those two cheetah are close by, they may even move a little bit into the darkness of the night to try and track them down. Now, if they were worried that it was another coalition, as the south male coalition are much older and bigger than them, Tam, the dynamics between cheetah are fascinating. In fact, the dynamics between all of these wonderful creatures out here is very fascinating. Now, I think that if these males were to have picked up the scent of the two south male cheetah coalition that do spend most of their time in this part of the reserve, they wouldn't be tracking them down. Those males are much bigger, and in fact last year those two males almost killed these two males. One of these males, the one in the back now, still has a wound that looks fresh from back then because he keeps licking it open. It is on his elbow, and as he walks he constantly keeps opening up that wound. And so they would be avoiding those males, but it most certainly seems like they've got this sense of something else because they are tracking it down. This could get very exciting if those other cheetah are close by.
The cubs are all on the move. They're making very soft contact calls because I think they're desperate for the adults to wake up. They're ready to go. You can just hear that small sort of very soft chirping of a young cub trying to contact call. We've got one lion on the road up ahead, and the other one went to all the other lionesses, I assume, to try and wake them up. Oh, when are we going, guys? Come on. We've been here for a few days. But talking of cheetah, actually, they have color binocular distant vision. And that's for the way that they hunt. They tend to be diurnal, and they tend to hang around wide open spaces to see in the distance. So that actually means that a cheetah's retina has more cones, which are the photoreceptor cells responsible for day vision, than lions, than other cats. Cheetahs actually have more cones, and they have fewer rods, because rods are the photoreceptors responsible for peripheral and night vision. So when you compare a cheetah's eye to a lion's eye, it's actually very different. Cheetahs have adapted for daytime vision, and that's exactly why they have more cones and less rods, because they need distant visuals as well. They tend to stay in open clearings and they can see for miles, and that's exactly how they make their mark and execute their hunt. So although they're all cats, they have completely different visual capacities. Lions are predominantly nocturnal. They do most of their hunting at night time. Cheetahs can hunt at night too. They tend to do this normally when it's close to full moon and there's a lot of ambient light. It's not entirely safe for a cheetah to be hunting and completely vulnerable during the night. I'm just going to let this other car go past. I think they're going to go up into the embankment there. You'll probably hear them. Look at that, look. Well, we're not going anywhere because we have a very cute roadblock. So hopefully soon, the adults are going to start to wake up.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
After looking at the young male, we decided to come back to the other side where the young female was lying down. Remember earlier, as the hyena disturbed her, she came and she lay down right next to that little tree there and behind the stump. We had to go into infrared because we are losing quite a bit of light at the moment, and you can see she's still looking off to the left. Now earlier on there was another hyena that came past and she's probably looking in that direction. Can't see anything, it's quite dense here, but she might be able to hear something. So what I want to do now is I want to show all our viewers how difficult it would be if you had to drive this time of the day to try and see this leopard with your naked eyes, especially how well it blends in. Because with the IR or the infrared light, it's a little bit easier to see. So I'm going to ask if Owen can switch it off, and just so that everyone can see. So we're going to go into color. And just have a look at that. Now if we zoom out a little bit from where she's lying down, Notice how difficult would it be to spot her behind that branch if she did not move and you didn't know she was there. So let's slowly go back to her, and from here on we'll go back into that infrared just so that it's a bit easier to spot her from where she is. Leaping, definitely. When you look at those eyes, they are phenomenal color. And I think with her particularly as well, she has these really beautiful greenish eyes, like greenish bluish eyes. Sounds like a lizard moving in one of the crevices. There's a tree right next to her. And it sounds like something's moving in there. That's caught her attention. Look at how she's staring up. Probably thinking, what is it? Of course, being a leopard, very, very curious. What I do enjoy about her is, if you notice on her left cheek, she has quite a big black blotch. And also, if you notice right in between her eyes, there's a very unique spot pattern. It looks like quite a few spots that are very finely spaced between the eyes. For now, let's quickly send you across to some cats that are moving, like cheetah.
So we think that these cheetah have spotted something. I had mentioned earlier that they're on the scent of some other cheetah, or a other cheetah. One of the males just sprinted off and just stopped again in the road. And you'll notice they're just around the corner. Just sit tight for 5 seconds. There they are. I wonder what they saw. You'll notice as they walk, they'll walk, stop, pop their heads up, walk, stop, pop their heads up. They're definitely searching for the cheetah that left their scent behind us. And even though they are searching for those cheetah, they do have the opportunity to hunt. They may take it, but I can see that they are very interested in finding whatever they have there, whatever scent they picked up earlier. Now, I'm not sure if they heard something walking in the grass. I don't think they saw something when they trotted off. You can see how he's looking off to the right there. Yep. What have they seen? It's quite tough to see. It is quite dark here. Thank goodness for the camera. We do pick up a little bit more light than what I can see. But they can maybe hear something. Or maybe seen something walk through the grass. The direction of the wind is from them sort of to the right. So they wouldn't have smelt what's over there. The one male's far more interested than the other male. So maybe the other male didn't see what his brother saw. It could also just have been a warthog running through the grass, although warthogs should be back in their burrows by now. There are sometimes some stragglers who are out feeding for far too long. And with him being on the trail of other cheetah, I think anything that moves, if he just gets a little bit of a glimpse, he might think it's those cheetah. And the fact that he was looking back and forward really tells me that it is not what he was looking for. Absolutely peaceful. I'm just going to keep quiet and you can listen. There's just a few birds calling. Few insects, but not much else. And so you'll notice that if if they were walking in the daytime, they would walk maybe 100 meters, 50 meters, stop and look around. Because it is getting darker, they are a little bit more wary at the fact that there could be other predators on the move. And so they only walk maybe 10, 20 meters, stop, look, 10, 20 meters, stop, look. Because they can't be foolish right now, although they're on the scent of other cheetah. They're just... Mr. Wild, I think it has been a super drive. I mean, 2 different leopards that I know of, or at least I've heard at Ngala, these 2 male cheetahs here, and everywhere else has just had some fantastic viewings. As I was mentioning earlier, that these 2 males have to be very clever. They can't just go aimlessly wandering off into the darkness trying to find these 2 other cheetah without concentrating about any other predators that might be in the area. And you can see that they're doing just that. Stopping, looking, making sure that they don't get caught out. Because unfortunately that is one of the reasons why in Africa we have such low numbers of cheetahs. Yes, there's many reasons, but one in particular is them being killed by other predators. Whoa, everybody, we've got a honey badger, everyone, not with me. So let's quickly link over to see who has the honey badger.
Not 1, but 2 honey badgers. 2 honey badgers. Just not enough ambient light to be in colour. So we're in infrared. We're using our infrared technology. But there's 2 here. Look at that. The other one's somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Tails up. It's my first honey badger sighting in a very long time, actually. I have not seen a honey badger in quite a while. And of course they tend to come out at this time. This is a perfect time to start to see honey badgers. And once they disappear into the thicket like that, they're gone. I wonder if we should just move forward. Okay, we're going to try and move forward. I don't want to scare them. Thank you. Okay. You got them. Okay, Craig sees them, I don't. Tell me when, Craigie. Okay, let's just try and relocate them because this is really special. 2 badgers on the move. I might have to get my spotlight out. As soon as we see the eye shine, we can determine exactly where they are. Bear with me. And of course, as soon as we see them... Oh, that's Impala. I wonder if they've just gone too far in now. How wonderful, though. Grumpy old man. You're asking, do I think it's possibly a mum and its offspring? I don't know. I didn't really get a good look at the size. I don't think one looked particularly smaller than the other, to be honest with you, but very possibly. Just give us 1 more minute to see if we can get another glimpse. The Impala are not happy. They're fast animals, and of course they're small. Just going to try to just open clear in one last time. And if we don't see them, we'll race back to the Nkumas, who I hope might be awake, also might not be awake. Okay, Craigie, do you see anything? Neither do I. Roshni, you're saying you're so happy you could cry. I love that. I always cry when I'm happy and when I'm sad and when I'm frustrated. It's a bit of a disaster, but yes, I'm glad you're happy. It was a short sighting, I'm afraid. We raced here Ferrari safari style, but I think we're not going to see the badgers again, I'm afraid. Ooh. Please start, Wendy. There we go. We are going to go back to the Nkuhumas, and you guys are going to go back across to NIKKI with some hyenas.
How amazing is that to be able to see honey badgers? So well done, Lauren, for that. We are still with those 2 leopards, and currently there's 2 more hyena that have joined up. See, this one's walking closer, and I wonder, once it gets close to this leopard, how is this leopard going to respond? So the leopard's just from where we are, lying down right there. So she spotted both of them. So we'll just try and see where these leopards move to. But in the meantime, apparently there's some views of those honey badgers. Let's head across back to Lauren.
They're back. I think it is a mother and his possible offspring. Well done, grumpy old man. But you're not feeling so grumpy now, huh? Look at this. I don't want to get any closer because it will scare them. Fantastic. I am over the moon at this sighting. Very unexpected. We've been back and forth with the lions all day. They're heading into Tortured, I'm afraid, but we're going to just try and stick with them as long as we can. It's really not often that we see the honey badgers here. And of course, they're completely different from the badger we get in Europe. They're ferocious predators. They don't look it, but my goodness, I've seen videos of lions backing down to honey badgers. There are some similarities with the European badger, though, and that's the sort of gait, the slow lumbering trot that they both had. And Eva, I love their jumpy walk too. Okay, let's try and just get a little bit closer. They're just up at this marula here. I don't know why I'm down like this. That makes absolutely no sense. I can still see them. They're walking very fast. Very jumpy walk. I think you could be right, mother and offspring. And Craig, do you think we can get a good view from here? Sir 50, I think you're right. You're always right. It's definitely one of the best sightings of badgers we've had in a while. Seeing them out in the open, in the road like that. Look at them go. Now, we're in infrared. They're far away, so it won't be the best, but you can still see them. Trot, 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 trot. I've actually seen 2 honey badgers on cheetah cutline before, and I'm wondering if it's the same ones. Okay, oh, no, they're coming back. They're on a mission. Can you see how fast they're moving? Shall we try and follow Craig? Since this is such a special sighting. Okay, bear with us. Just try and see if we can get a little bit closer, pick out more detail. For their body size, honey badgers actually have a really large skull in comparison to the size of their bodies. It's a very large skull, and that's because they are such voracious carnivores. I'm just going to turn my lights on to try and see them. Carrie, you could... Oh my goodness, I'm going to keep really quiet. This is the closest I have been to honey badgers in a long time. They're really close. They're digging. Wow, I'm just going to try and not make too much noise. Although I have to say they're actually quite comfortable with our presence. Isn't it wonderful looking at it through the infrared light? You can see the color tones. The grey, the white band, the black. Now, since I've been talking a lot about senses, we saw the eye shine there from the infrared light of their eyes. But in comparison to the size of their skull, they actually have very small eyes. And what that tells you immediately is possibly they're not necessarily visual animals. They can see, absolutely. But it tells you that they're probably relying more heavily on other senses, such as smell and their hearing. Okay, I wonder if we can get just a little bit closer. Let's try. I'm going to try and keep up with these honey badgers as long as we can, but it appears that Steve has also got a last-minute something for you all.
Well, how amazing, Lauren. Honey badgers. They are my favourite animal, for those of you who didn't realise. And there's another animal here that I've been looking for some time. And finally, Theo has helped me find Trishala's chameleon called Fernando. And I've just got the lights on. The light's very soft. I'm shining it into the ground and it's reflecting onto him. I just be very gentle with Fernando here. And no wonder I couldn't find him. He's at the bottom of this bush, right in the grass at the bottom. And I mean, come on, Fernando, how am I supposed to see you there? I've been trying for some time to find one, and I've yet to be successful. But on my last evening, I thought we'd try, and after moving through a wonderful afternoon, thought we'd see if we could maybe get one last view of Thandi, if we could find her, but unsuccessfully. But we were able to find a master of camouflage, aptly named by Trishala Fernando. I don't know how or what came about giving Fernando the name. I've no doubt she probably has sexed it to at least be a boy. I'm sure it probably just popped into her head, like most of the things with Trish. She's a wonderful human. It was wonderful working with her this this stint, and this is my last day of the stint. I will be back on the 19th of August. And Dave Hancock will be in from tomorrow morning to be guiding you along the way. You've met Dave before. If you haven't, I'm sure you will all fall in love with him as well. He's a wonderful gentleman. You'll probably be in camp already when I get there. Well, thank you, everybody. We will see you in a few weeks, and we're going to send you over to Lauren, who's got some more views of the honey badgers.
We are going to extend the drive just a little bit because of this incredible sighting. The two of them are there. They appear to be digging. They've got huge claws. They're specially adapted for digging. Oh, I think that one actually got something. I think they're hunting together. They can actually dig their own burrows every single day to sleep in. That's how powerful they are at digging. Every single day they'll just dig a new burrow anywhere. You can do it in the ground, tree trunk, termite mound, anything other than rock, I think. And then you can do it in a matter of minutes. Wow! Wasn't that just the best way to end a fantastic drive? I'm not entirely sure we're going to get another view of them. Bucky, I think you were saying wow. Yes, absolutely wow. don't think we're going to get another view of them, so that means it is the end of a very special drive, a drive that was for Taxon, a very, very special man. So thank you everyone for jumping on board. It's a pleasure as always. Please do join us tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, good night.